Hello, everyone, and welcome to the first interview of the SDG Governance Project, a project that is funded under the VUOS program through Hasselt University in Belgium, which basically supports partnerships between Flemish universities and universities in the global south. My name is Matteo Fermeglia. I am assistant professor at Amsterdam University, but also external research fellow at Hasselt University. And I'm also carrying out this interview on behalf of Professor Melanie Marcotte, who is Professor of Environmental Law at the University of Cape Town. And together we're rolling out the SDG Governance Project. Basically, in this project, what we're doing is that we're looking at how the UN Sustainable Development Goals for 2030 work, and specifically how governance actors in Europe and Africa are playing a role in implementing the SDGs, either deliberately or inadvertently, including courts, municipalities, which will be the subject of today's interview, children, international bodies, and cooperation. Basically, our aim is to foster North-South dialogue among lawyers, policymakers, academics, and other players on the significance of the SDGs as governance tools in the times of climate change and many other global threats. So we want to generate innovative responses to climate change and its many human rights implications. Today, as the first guest for our interview collection, we are meeting with Miha Marcenko. Hello, Miha, who is a Max Weber Fellow at EUI, European University Institute in Florence, and concluded his PhD on municipalities and international law at the University of Amsterdam. Hence, of course, the topic of the talk today would be about the role of municipalities in Europe in implementing the SDGs in a time of climate change. Hello, Miha, again, and welcome.
Hi, thank you very much for introducing me.
So the first question for you would be if you can kind of give us an helicopter view on what is the role that you see in general for municipalities in Europe when it comes to implementing the SDGs, in particular in regard to the responses to climate change under SDG number 13.
Yeah, thank you. It's a very important question. So cities or municipalities should be looked at from two angles. The first one is that they are the territorial spaces where most of the adverse effects of climate change happen, meaning that it is the space where the resilience has to be built. It is the space where the pollution happens. It is the space where the solutions have to be scaled up, where the most industry is, where the most traffic is happening. And they're also the spaces where the density of the population, especially in Europe, which is heavily urbanized, is the highest. And because of that, it is easier in a sense to come up with solutions that are efficient, that are scalable. So that is regarding the space. The other one is that the municipality obviously is an administrative unit or a political unit, a legal unit. And it is a type of governance that, as a cliche usually says, is the closest to the people, which means that it can most efficiently translate the global standards, the global norms, the global goals to the local level, to the level that is the most appropriate for the local environment. In addition to that, it is also the level of authority that can most efficiently convince people to give up certain habits that are, especially in the sense of climate adaptation and change, have to be accomplished, and therefore it can convince them to change their habits, to give up their comforts, their freedoms, if necessary, in order to progress the common good, I guess. So that would be my answer.
I think that's a very complete answer. Thank you for all these interesting insights. I do take especially on the role related to changing behaviors just as a follow-up question, which is the second question for today, and it would be: do you think that the SDGs play a central or a peripheral role in implementation at the municipal level? And are the SDGs deliberately or inadvertently implemented by municipalities in Europe?
Yeah, I guess it's a it's a very pertinent question, and the answer is both, in a sense that in many ways they are used directly as a guidance by municipalities who are, because of the decentralization and the autonomy that the mayors have and that the municipal councils have, they do use them as inspiration for policies within cities. And this is also especially happening through municipal networks like ICLEI or the UCLG, for example, or C40, which is also powerful in Europe. And it is here that one can observe how mayors are basing their policies directly on the SDGs. The second answer is that because the context of Europe is multi-level governance, SDGs function mostly in the background. So what do I mean by that is that recently, the European Green Deal has been accepted. And European Green Deal is very much connected to the SDGs. It's very much done in such a way, and to the Paris Agreement, obviously. And so therefore, when municipalities follow the guidelines or accept policies in the context of this European Green Deal, they do work with SDGs, but not directly necessarily. And this is happening on other levels as well. So either it's the national state policies or national state laws and so on, where the SDGs function in the background.
Yeah, thank you for this. And thanks also for the reference to the Green Deal, which of course, it's a big deal also at the municipality level. And to dig a bit deeper in this, as you said, some SDGs are working perhaps in the background. So do you think there are any particular specific SDGs that you think are particularly inherently relevant for municipal action? And if so, why?
Yes. So SDGs, as we know, are the successor of the Millennium Goals. And one thing that happened in SDGs is that because of the powerful lobbying of the, let's call them urban actors, there has been an acceptance of the SDG 11, which targets cities and municipalities directly. And this goal, this SDG 11, is specifically talks about the centrality of cities as the, let's call them the nucleus through which not just the sustainability in general has to be accomplished, but where all the SDGs in a sense have to be accomplished. Why? Because now the whole world, in Europe this has been there for a while, but the whole world is becoming urbanized. And because of that, obviously all the problems that are connected to sustainability are now very much connected to the urban space and the urban governance. So one answer is the SDG 11. The second answer is most of the SDGs actually are relevant, or the acceptance or the achievement of SDGs is relevant within cities. Everything from from sustainable consumption to in coastal cities, it's the life in the sea, life in the land, it's the governments, the rule of law. All of these things obviously are crucial in cities.
Okay, thank you for this. And actually, again, following up on this point, since you said many SDGs are relevant, indeed, in the municipal context, the question is, if legally speaking, SDGs, which are regarded as soft law, so to speak, meaning that they are not necessarily binding, but informing policy development and implementation, as opposed to hard laws, which impose binding obligation. The question is whether, or better said, as far as municipality in Europe are concerned, could the SDG play a hard or a soft role? Do you see SDGs still as soft law or as a hard law from the municipality perspective?
I guess the first answer is that due to the history of municipal autonomy in Europe and the level of decentralization that isn't equal around Europe, but nevertheless is very high, municipal councils and mayors have obviously pass ordinances, or they sign their policies into law. So they have the legislative power, not just the executive power. And because of that, whatever they do with SDGs, whatever they do with the goals, with sustainable development, eventually becomes hard law within cities. That is the first answer. The second answer is that, in my personal opinion, SDGs were not written as hard law. So they were written as policy directions, as principles that are supposed to act and guide in the background. And that is their strength, not as really concrete, justifiable norms that should be played out in different legal environments. And because of that, I believe that the answer, therefore, is both. So they need to be localized and translated into hard laws in the municipality. But there always also, the power is actually the soft law, the normative background.
Agreed. Thank you for this, Miha. And as a last wrap-up question, we kind of zoom out a bit, and also given the focus of our project, the question to you would be, what is the value of a North-South dialogue when it comes to engaging on implementation of the SDGs at the municipal level? Please.
Yes, thank you. It's a very important question, and also a bit, well, let me answer. So in one sense, there has been a lot of North-South dialogue through municipal networks. So one has global networks like the UCLG, or even ICLEI functions throughout the so-called global North divide. This divide obviously is problematic because even cities in Europe are not equal in that sense, have different problems, different level of urbanization, of urban problems, and so on. So from what I've seen and read so far, there have been successful examples at the city-to-city level where there is exchange of standards and information and exchange of knowledge. Why? Because those connections are usually project-based, and cities often have similar problems. So, for example, if you have a mining city in Europe and a mining city in Africa, those are issues that the mayors obviously can really discuss face to face, because they have the same problems. The same thing happens with coastal cities or with cities that have pollution in rivers and so on. On the general level, it's a good question. I would say that the most valuable aspect of this is that all the mayors, either from Africa or from Europe, when they participate in the conversations on sustainable development in the context of the networks, for example, they feel that they are part of something greater, a common agenda. And because of that, they believe that they're contributing to some common good. And because of that, they're willing. So there's political willingness being built within these networks, and they're willing to engage with these standards, with goals, and so on. Having said all of this, the problem is that sometimes one still has a feeling of a potentially neo-colonial discourse in the background. Why? Because of economic development of the European cities, many European cities, and because of certain level of urbanization in certain African cities, the conversation can be of a teacher and a pupil instead of an equal discussion. So that can then become a problem, which is not necessary. So it's not predetermined, but nevertheless, one has to be careful when one talks about these discussions and the dialogue and so on. So yeah, it's varied. The conversation is varied, I guess.
Yeah, thanks very much for this, Miha. I think it's the perfect wrap-up note, which actually justifies once again the work that we're doing in this project. So let me thank you very much for your time and for your insights on the SDGs implementation at the municipal level in Europe. As I said, we have more to follow. So for those of you who are listening, check out in the future our forthcoming book on the SDGs at work, with further North-South insights, including Miha's insights on implementation of SDGs as governance tools amidst the climate crisis. So thank you once again, Miha, for being with us, for being with me, and also with Melanie, figuratively today. And I will read you probably in the forthcoming book. And yeah, this has been SDGs at Work for the first item of the collection. More to follow. Thank you.
Thank you.